Hi, Kathy. This is Kelsey. Can you hear me okay?
Kelsey, yeah,
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Getting my place fixed up here. So Kelsey, can I ask you a question? Kelsey?
I'm sorry, Kathy. What was that?
Why don't you do?
Yeah. When I'm doing the agenda, when I get to continued matters, we go ahead right there under continued matters and vote on that, right?
Yeah, so the continued matters just means they were on a previous agenda
Right.
and got continued. So they still haven't been heard and action hasn't been taken.
Yeah, okay.
You'd hear them individually, Chair.
Pardon?
This is Raj. You would.
Oh, hi, Raj. I didn't know you were there.
Hi. No worries. You would take the matters individually on the continued matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's only one for today. The other one has been continued on.
Yeah, I saw that. It was very confusing. I had to get it all straightened out and figure it out because I hate it when I mess up.
I completely understand.
So it's a continued matter?
Well, there's the continued matter from last time, and then there's a one that's this time that is continued,
Correct.
right? See how on top of that I am?
Just a test.
Can I ask you a question? My husband has a TV on in the other room. Can you hear it?
I can't hear it.
Good.
I'm at City Hall today, by the way, Kathy, and I was thinking
I'm
of you.
very impressed. I don't think I would have been able to survive this had I had to stay home the whole time. We were lucky enough to be able to be in our office. We just didn't have the public come in. I might have died or killed my husband with all the work that we needed to do. Okay, so it's 6 o'clock on September 16th. This is the Fresno Planning Commission meeting, and would the secretary please take the roll call?
Commissioner Hardy,
Present, thank you.
Commissioner Kreiner. Not seeing him. Commissioner Sodilene,
Present.
Commissioner McKenzie. Not see. Commissioner Vang,
Here.
Commissioner Diaz,
Here.
and Chair Bray.
Present. Okay, we'll now begin the Pledge of Allegiance with our pretty waving flag that will magically appear on our screens. There we go. So, ready, salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I'll read the procedures now. While emergency order number 2020-12 is in effect, the City of Fresno public meetings will be conducted electronically and telephonically only. As such, this meeting is being conducted electronically and telephonically. The public may participate in tonight's meeting by using the Zoom link or calling the phone number provided on the Planning Commission agenda. Please note that all participants will be on mute until they are called upon by the chair or when Gavin unmutes them, at which point they will be unmuted. If you are a member of the public and would like to comment on an item, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, or if you're calling in, dial *9. To avoid confusion, please wait for the item you desire to comment on to be called by the chair before electronically raising your hand or dialing *9. For each matter considered by the commission, there will first be a staff presentation, followed by a presentation from the project applicant. Testimony from supporters of the project will then be taken, followed by testimony from those in opposition. The applicant will have the right to a final rebuttal presentation prior to the closing of the hearing. In accordance with Section 13 of Article 2 of the Planning Commission Rules and Regulations governing the length of public debate, all public testimony from those in support and in opposition of the project will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Any testimony that references race, religion, ethnicity, economic status, national origin, or any other classification protected under state or federal law in a derogatory manner shall be deemed irrelevant and will not be considered by the commission in making its land use determinations. If you challenge these land use matters in court, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised in oral or written testimony or before the close of the hearing. So we'll start today's meeting with approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Staff has no change.
Okay. Are there any commissioners have any changes to the agenda?
No.
We do have a continuance request. Is this where I would do that, Dan? Item number 20-01149 continued to 10/21. So that
Yes.
would be included in this. Okay. So is there a motion to approve the agenda?
A motion to approve.
Okay. Can we have a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Vang, seconded by Commissioner Sodilene. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hardy,
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Kreiner, Commissioner Sodilene, Commissioner Sodilene,
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie? Still absent. Commissioner Ving?
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz? Commissioner Diaz?
I just got a text message from Monica. On her Zoom, she got a message about she could not connect to her service. Please check with your network and try again. So I don't think she's available right now.
Okay.
Could she call in? You might text her back and tell her to call in.
Oh, it looks like she's connecting again.
Oh, is she? Okay.
Hi, Monica. Can you hear us okay?
I'm having a lot of trouble with my computer. I am so sorry. If it keeps turning off, I'm going to continue logging in. I apologize for that.
Monica, would you prefer to just call in and then you could just call on your phone and it wouldn't keep disconnecting?
Yes, I'm going to do that. Thank
You
you.
have the number?
Yes, I have it. Yes. I
Is
will
that
have-
okay, Dan?
Yes, perfectly okay. Is that okay?
Raj, is
Yes,
that
that's
okay?
fine.
Okay. All right. So she'll call in. But Monica, how do you want to
Yes.
vote on the approval of the agenda?
Yes,
Aye.
sir.
Yes to approve.
Okay, thank you. And Chair Bray.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Do we have any reports by commissioners? Okay. So we will continue, go to continued matters number ID 20-001129. Consideration of plan amendment and rezone application and related environmental assessment for 18.9 acres located on the west side of Palm Avenue between Nice and West Fallbrook. We have the staff presentation.
We do. One moment while I share my screen.
Oh, you're at City Hall too, I can tell.
Let's see,
Unless you have really boring decor at your house.
that's my
Which
my
could
background, my Zoom background. Okay, so can you guys see plan amendment rezone application? I have two
Yes.
items today, that's why.
Yeah, it looks
Okay.
great, Jose. It looks like this is the right one.
Okay. All right. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jose Valenzuela, and I am with the Planning and Development Department. Tonight, you will be considering the subject plan amendment and rezone applications and the related environmental assessment for the existing Park Place Shopping Center. The subject property is located within the City of Fresno's general plan boundary and sphere of influence. The subject property is approximately 18.9 acres located west of North Palm Avenue between West Nice and West Fallbrook Avenues. Immediate properties to the east and south are substantially developed with commercial and light industrial uses. Undeveloped areas are located to the west and north of the subject property. A little bit of background. The Park Place Shopping Center originally was approved in 2005, which included a mix of commercial and office uses. In 2010, the Fresno City Council approved plan amendment application number A-09-08, which changed the land use designation from an office commercial to the community commercial plan land use designation. Additionally, the rezone application, a rezone application was also approved, rezone application number R-09-16, which changed the zone districts from the CM and the CP zone districts to the C2 Community Shopping Center zone district in accordance with the plan amendment at the time. In 2016, in the production of the general plan, the site's plan land use was reversed to an office and light industrial plan land use designation, inconsistent with the previously approved plan amendment from 2010. Consequently, the zoning classification was also reverted to an office and light industrial zone district. The purpose of this plan amendment that you are considering tonight is to make a technical correction to implement the City Council's direction from February 2016, allowing property owners to request a reversion to a zone district and plan land use to that existing under the prior general plan. Therefore, tonight's plan amendment application proposes to amend the general plan to change the plan land use designation from the employment light industrial to the employment light industrial and employment office to the commercial community land use designation. Likewise, tonight's rezone application proposes to rezone the subject properties from the O and the IL to the CC Community Commercial Zone District in accordance with tonight's plan amendment. In summary, in 2010, the subject site was designated and zoned for commercial. In 2016, in error, the city changed it back to light industrial and office, to an office designation and zoning. Again, with tonight's plan amendment and rezone, we are correcting the land use designation and zoning classification to that of commercial as was intended and approved in 2010. Staff recommends approval of the proposed plan amendment, rezone, and the environmental assessment. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Hey, do
Thank
any
you.
commissioners have questions? Okay, so we'll now go out to the public. Are there any members of the public who want to comment in favor of this application? If you are a member of the public and would like to comment on this, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, or if you're calling in, dial *9.
At this time, there are no hands up, Commissioner.
Okay, all right. So is there any public comment in opposition?
Again, no hands are up at this time.
Okay, we'll take this back and close the hearing. Do any of the commissioners like to ask questions or comment on this item?
Just want to make I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve staff's recommendations.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a second by Commissioner Vang, a motion by Commissioner Vang, seconded by Commissioner Diaz. We take a roll call vote, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I do just want to add for the record that I have noted that Commissioner McKenzie came in and attended at 6:05 tonight.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know she was here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Commissioner Hardy,
Yes.
Commissioner Kreiner, Commissioner Sodi Lane,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Vang,
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
and Chair Bray.
Yes.
All
That
right.
passes. Okay, so we will now go to new matters, beginning with item A, ID 20-001143, consideration of conditional use permit application for the northeast corner of North Cedar and East Tulare Avenues. We have the staff
Chair.
presentation. Yes, sir.
I'm going to be recusing off this. I own property.
Oh,
Thanks.
okay.
You don't have to leave. I can put you on hold until we're done with this.
Thank you.
Let me get to him. Okay, he's on hold now.
I'm sorry, can everybody hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, are you ready for my presentation?
Yes, we are.
Okay, hello, this is Thomas Veach with the Planning and Development Department. and I'm here to discuss conditional use permit application P20-00545. This application is requesting to construct a 3,131 square foot 7-Eleven convenience store and service station at the corner of Tulare and Cedar. A request for an ABC license is not part of this current application. In this per the neighborhood mixed use districts, both of these uses are allowed. This application has been reviewed by the Planning Commission before. I'm sorry, not the application, but this parcel has been reviewed for a service station at this location. The previous applications were seen in February of 2019. However, the previous application included a request for an ABC license, type 20 for off sale. And based off of it being over concentrated and not complying with the development code, the approval for the service station itself was approved, but the ABC license was denied. And so this the application was being prepared to go to City Council, but the application was withdrawn by the applicant. So this is a vicinity map of the location. It's at the northeast corner of Tulare and northwest corner of Tulare and Cedar. The parcel is zoned neighborhood mixed use. Okay. And this is another map, and it's showing just basically along Tulare on both sides of the street, and this area is all zoned neighborhood mixed use. Okay, this is a site plan for the application. It's showing the convenience store 7-Eleven that's oriented on the corner with the fuel islands towards the back corner of the parcel. Okay, and this is some exterior elevations. Okay, this project wasn't reviewed by the District 7 Plan Review Committee because there isn't one active at the moment. A notice of intent to take action was mailed on June 19th, 2020 to surrounding property owners within 1,000 feet of the property. A secondary notice for the planning hearing was also sent on September 4th. There was lots of feedback received from the neighborhood in opposition to the project. A summary of the concerns was opposition to another service station in the area because of the high number of existing service stations. The proximity to the high school was a factor, and crime that could potentially occur. Residents were concerned with traffic danger related to like fueling trucks driving down the road and having to pull in there, and just any potential danger that could result from that. They were also concerned with the potential sale of tobacco products to high school students because it's adjacent to Roosevelt High School. And they were also concerned with this lack of fresh food provided from the store. Based on the development code and the findings that have to be met for section 155306, the project was reviewed for these findings, and the exhibit H that's provided with the PC report contains a more detailed account of how the project can meet these findings. Okay. As I stated before, the parcel is zoned neighborhood mixed use, and in that district, service stations and convenience stores are permitted by conditional use permit approval. Okay, and once again, as I said, a detailed account of the findings was provided in the full staff memo. Okay. These are just the findings that were described in my memo that basically that the project was able to meet all of the findings that were required. The project is also consistent with the general plan, especially in regards to infill development. Because it's right, because as current, the property is a vacant lot. This parcel was designated as part of the housing element, and so it was reviewed in accordance with those provisions. And it was found that because of the surplus of housing units for the housing element that's already currently available, that they've that even though this project doesn't contain any housing proposed, because of the surplus, it would still be able to meet the findings for the housing element. The project, as I stated, the project meets the required findings for the conditional use permit. The project was approved on July 26th. However, an appeal was received from the public on August 11th. The full appeal letter was provided as Exhibit K. The appellant's request for the appeal was based on the concerns that I've previously discussed. And then based on the project meeting all the requirements of the development code, staff recommends that we adopt the environmental assessment, adopt the findings pursuant to the housing elements are adequate, and then deny the appeal and uphold the director's decision to approve the project. Okay, and then I was provided some renderings of the project itself. And as you can see, it's similar to the elevations I showed previously. And I'm back to the site plan. Oops, sorry. And I'm not sure if I didn't bring this up later, but I did this morning receive a letter that was sent based off the agenda in protest. Do I read that? I think I need to read that at a second point. Is that true?
You can submit that into the record and provide a written copy if you have not already done so.
I emailed it to the commissioners shortly before the meeting began, but I can do that as well.
That record also needs to be provided as part of the record.
Okay.
So it needs to be added to Granicus.
Okay.
If it hasn't already been, then I would suggest you reading it into the record.
Okay. Okay, it was a letter received from Ravinder Bogle, and the letter, it was sent this morning. I received it this morning, and it says, to whom it may concern, I am writing to speak against the project proposal of a 7-Eleven convenience store and gas station to be developed on the corner of North Cedar Avenue and East Tulare Street. I have been a small business owner of a convenience store in the vicinity for the past 17 years and is my main source of income. I am a widow and still support my son. I'm afraid of what may happen to us and the other small businesses in the area who may not be able to compete with a major corporation like 7-Eleven. Unlike other major chain convenience stores, I am in tune with what is happening within the community. I have seen the children grow up for better or worse and worse. I know customers by name and they know me. We have built trust over the years and take care of each other. When family members in the community need to raise funds to pay for funeral expenses by car wash, I allow them to use my property and water at no charge. When I heard a nearby church could not afford to fix their air conditioning, I had it fixed for them. Whenever I need help with repairs and projects, I often hire my own customers as another way to give back to the community that gives to me. When my husband was alive, he would do similarly. This is not something a major corporation like 7-Eleven would do. I urge you to take into consideration how it would affect local businesses and the community and uphold your previous decision to deny the project proposal. Thank you. Ravinder K. Bogle. Okay, and that concludes the letter, and then I'm available to answer any questions if needed.
Thank you, Thomas. Do any of the commissioners have questions or comments?
I have a question for Thomas. Hey, Thomas, quick question for you. For Mrs. Ravender, the individual who submitted that letter, does she have a type 20 license or an active any kind of license at all for alcohol sales?
Because just received it this morning, her email address is from the the Cedar Food Market, which I believe is just a little bit closer up the road.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the details of that business though, if they have the ABC license.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so do we have a presentation from the applicant?
I have a Susan with her hand up and a Sid with their hand up.
Okay, the applicant is Sid, and then there's also Terry that's an applicant, and then Susan would be the appellant.
Okay, I'll let Sid talk first then.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Sid Weiner. I am the developer of the proposed project. As Thomas pointed out, this is the same project that was approved by Planning Commission last year. 7-Eleven gas station and a convenience store. Just to correct one thing, we withdrew our application for a type 20 license prior to the vote last year when we heard the concerns of the community. So it was not rejected by Planning Commission. We had withdrawn it. And to be clear, we are not seeking beer, wine, or liquor. The only difference from what was approved last year and what we are showing you today are significant architectural upgrades that we put in to match the architecture of the Roosevelt High School. This is part of our effort to enhance the local community and to show that we're trying to be good neighbors and make this a project that everybody is pleased with and proud of. We planned and designed this. It took over a year. We worked very closely with staff and with other Fresno governmental agencies and officials. Our project was recommended for approval by staff last year. And as you heard, it is again recommended for approval by staff. And we also want to point out that while we are here seeking a conditional use permit, the conditional use permit is for the gas station. The convenience store is zoned by right. So while we're glad to discuss all the issues that are being raised, and we think they're all important issues, we want to make sure that everyone understands the context of what we're talking about here, which is the gas station, because the convenience store is already zoned as by right and could be built without a conditional use permit. So those with objections to the project have focused on a few specific issues, again, that Thomas brought up: safety, traffic, over concentration of gas stations, the product mix of the convenience store, and the appropriateness of the use of the property. And let's start with safety. From the very beginning, it's been important to us to be community partners with the neighboring community. And whenever we do projects, and we're doing several projects in the Fresno area and elsewhere around the state of California, one of the first things we always do is talk to the police departments. And one thing that any police department will tell you is that the most dangerous properties are those that are vacant and dark, as the corner currently is and has been for as long as anybody can remember. Commercial activity, lights, cameras, and human eyes act as disinfectants to crime and loitering. As Terry will point out as part of her presentation, the building will have indoor and outdoor security cameras. There will be a lot of lighting, both indoors and outdoors. We are applying for 24 hours, so there will be activity at the site at all times. And as I mentioned earlier, police departments will tell you that that is a deterrent to crime and loitering rather than a magnet for it. As far as traffic and the overconcentration of gas stations, as part of our staff review, the project was analyzed by Public Works. And it was determined that no traffic study was needed as there was no evidence of any abnormal traffic effects flowing from our project. And as far as the concern about tankers and trucks, 7-Eleven is very careful to have their deliveries done in off-peak hours because they don't want to interrupt their business any more than they want to interrupt the community. So it's just a common sense thing. As far as the overconcentration of gas stations, we've all seen what that can look like in some places where you see 3 gas stations on a corner. Not only is there not a gas station on any of the 4 quadrants of this particular intersection, but there are no gas stations within a half a mile of this property. So I think that speaks for itself as far as overconcentration goes. The majority of the comments that we have seen related to the product mix of the 7-Eleven convenience store. Again, I want to remind everybody that the convenience store is zoned as of right. So we don't need the CUP to do the convenience store. But that being said, as community partners, we want to address all the concerns that have been brought up by the neighborhood residents. And the biggest one by far is about potential tobacco sales to minors. And we'd like to make several points about our project as it relates to that concern. For one thing, the biggest issue with teens and tobacco today is vaping and vape products. We will not be selling vape products at this store. Furthermore, any tobacco that is sold is behind the counter, and the vast majority of it is actually under lock and key. There are loose packs of cigarettes, but all the cartons are under lock and key. There's no access to them. And 7-Eleven has a very, very strict carding policy. And they actually have a regular program of sending in outside third parties to monitor whether stores will sell to underage people, and franchisees can lose their business if they sell to underage customers. So we recognize the issue. As a parent, I recognize the issue, but we are not only in compliance with all state, local, and federal laws regarding tobacco, but we go way beyond that. And by not selling certain products that we could, and by really making sure that all laws are followed in regards to keeping tobacco products away from any underage people, but specifically the students at Roosevelt High School. The other product mix issue that's come up is the food mix. And I think that it was, a lot of people think of 7-Elevens and they think of the older 7-Elevens, but if you've been in any of the newer 7-Elevens, the product mix is much, much different. This store will have fresh fruit and vegetables. It will have fresh sandwiches, fresh salads, all locally sourced. And I don't think there's anywhere within a mile that a local resident can walk to, and for sure the students can walk to, where they can get fresh fruit, fresh vegetables, fresh sandwiches, fresh salads. So again, we look at this as an enhancement, not as a detriment. And we think it's just more of that it's just not really understood what the store will actually be. Some of the further comments claim that our proposed use was not an appropriate one for this corner. And we couldn't disagree more, and we think that history bears our opinion out. The corner has been vacant without any benefit to the community for as long as anybody can remember. And if there were a better use, it would have come to fruition by now. And some have said that they would like the site to be a park, but the question is who's going to pay for the park and maintain a park? Like every other city in today's world, the city of Fresno is strapped for cash and struggling to maintain the open land sites that they already have and that they're already responsible for. So while I think everybody would love to see more parks everywhere, I think the reality of it on this particular site just doesn't make sense. We truly seek to develop a project that will be a value add to the community, and we truly do seek to be community partners. We look forward to creating an additional 10 to 15 local jobs, as well as creating new tax revenues that will benefit all the residents of Fresno. And as a final demonstration of our desire to help uplift the community, we are going to donate tens of thousands of dollars to fund student activities at Roosevelt High School. So while I think it's wonderful that the letter you read, that the woman has, provided a lot of nice things to the village, or to the city rather, we're willing to pull our share also, and we're very happy to put our money behind our words. So we look forward to working with the high school. We look forward to working with the city, and we ask you for your approval of the project.
Thank you. Do any of the commissioners have questions for the applicant?
Well, Terry's also going to speak, but.
Yeah, I was going to see if they wanted to ask you anything.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so can we have the next representative from the applicant?
Hi, is there a way to show my PowerPoint presentation? It's very short, I promise.
Commissioner, I can move her to a panelist temporarily if you'd like.
Okay.
Terry, you should be able to share your screen now.
Am I unmuted now? Sorry, I was talking to you.
Yeah, no, we can hear you.
Okay, so good evening, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for your time tonight. I just wanted to show a couple of fast slides to sort of illustrate some of the things that both Thomas and Sid have talked about this evening. So we have worked with the city over the last several years. Oops, my slides don't want to work. I'm going to skip the vacant lot because everyone knows that it's a vacant lot. But we've worked with the city a lot over the past several years to try and make this really change this corner for the better. And what we've done is we've looked at the storefronts along Tulare Avenue, the commercial storefronts, and saw that there were 0 lot lines. And we tried to emulate that in our site plan. So we brought the store up to the corner. We made the corner one of the main entrances, and then we put this glazing along Cedar Avenue so that it creates an interesting visual instead of a blank wall. And that gives pedestrians a much nicer experience when walking from the residential area to this store. And we also we used landscaping to buffer the areas that weren't the store along the street front. So along our internal lot line, we have a 15-foot landscape buffer, and along Tulare Avenue, we have a 12-foot landscape buffer. And this is not length, it's depth. So the entire length of the internal lot line, except for the trash enclosure that you can see at the top of this drawing, and the landscaping along Tulare Avenue, except for where the driveway entrance and the store is, will be fully landscaped, making this a really green area, and it is over 3,200 square feet of landscaping. So we really tried to minimize any effect that the fueling would have on the view from Tulare and Cedar. as well, but really Tulare is the main view of this fueling station. Then with the architecture, which is what we've been working on for the past year, there's a significant change. And we went into the community to try and find some historic architectural styles similar to what we tried to look at as far as the building typology for the commercial. And we didn't need to look any further than Roosevelt High School. It's a very beautiful architectural style. So in putting together our elevations, we tried to emulate some of those design features, mainly the tower in the center and then the tile roofing, which you see a little bit better in this visual. So the awning has the tile, the parapet or the tower element has the tile, and then it has similar modulation as well as color. So we were trying to make this tie into the neighborhood again and make it something fairly significant for this corner. Then finally, I just want to show a few photos of the interior, some of these new 7-Elevens that Sid touched upon. So 7-Eleven, when you think of the old 7-Eleven, we think of Slurpees, we think of junk food, we think of sodas. And what 7-Eleven is really trying to do over the last several years is change that image and see this as a neighborhood market. And so they have this fresh fruit offering. They try and have healthier snacks, as well as the sundries that we're all used to picking up at local convenience stores. And then in addition, they've introduced this deli concept. And the deli concept has fresh sandwiches, hummus, yogurt, boiled eggs, cheeses, fresh fruit ready to eat, as well as the fresh fruit offerings that you saw in the previous photo. And this is really just to allow people who have limited time for lunch, maybe when the high school students don't have a lunch that they brought, they can run across the street, they can grab one of these, and it's a healthier option for them. So it's similar to how Starbucks or Coffee Bean or some of the AM/PMs are offering these healthier options. I think we were all kind of on the go and having this available to service the community, as well as having the sundry items, like I said, that we're used to picking up. So I just, I would really like to emphasize that this isn't your 1980s 7-Eleven. It's something that they are trying to change the branding. So with that, I'll turn it back over to city staff. If you have any questions, obviously we're available.
Terry, I have one question. I noticed in the elevation of the building, there's no trees along Cedar, and you can't see them down Tulare. But in the landscape plan, there's those big green circles. Are there going to be trees along Cedar, even though they're not shown in that elevation?
Yes. So because the building itself is built up to the lot line, obviously there won't be any trees along there. And we had originally talked about having a landscape buffer between the building, and planning staff had asked us just to pull the building all the way up to the front so that we could have the zero lot line. So what we're doing then is there will be those trees in that little area, that little plaza type area, and then trees along the interior property line.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. Is there anyone else in favor of the project?
I've got a couple more hands up. Susan is the next one.
Hello.
You've been unmuted.
Okay. Well, I spoke last year, and I'm really kind of shocked that this came back this year, especially now because of the COVID-19 restrictions. It's very, the neighborhood has not been able to really mobilize against us like they did last year. But I just want to go over a couple of things.
Excuse me, can I ask you to state your name and address?
Oh, surely, I'm sorry.
Because I don't think you're Susan.
Well, I'm her worst half. I'm her husband, Frank.
Yeah, I figured
Cialdelli.
that, but it says Susan up here, so I thought you might want to state your name and address.
I'm sorry, Frank Cialdelli, 4043 East Tulare Street, Fresno, California, 93702. And Susan,
Susan is here also. Same last name, same address.
well, we were against this last year. We're against it this year also. We're kind of taken aback that it even got this far during COVID-19 because we really couldn't mobilize the neighborhood because of the restrictions we have on everybody. It all came as quite of a shock, and it happened pretty fast. Just to address some of the points that the applicants made. The proposed site is surrounded by residences, not commercial buildings. Even though we are all zoned mixed use along Tulare, it's residences on that block. The place backs up to a large residential neighborhood there. So, you know, this is really a residential part of the neighborhood. It's not a commercial part of the neighborhood. It's definitely it's going to result in a lot of significant adverse effects to the surrounding neighborhood. It would impact an already busy intersection that is a main thoroughfare connecting the two major regional highways, State Route 180 and State Route 41. There will be the added traffic of the fuel tanker trucks and the danger they bring. I mean, you know, May 26, 2017, Atwater, I don't know if you've ever seen the pictures, but I wouldn't want that to happen 1,000 feet from where I live. And it's not necessary. Plus, there's going to be added pollution from fuel vapors, exhaust fumes, and the added noise of just more traffic on the street. These are two major thoroughfares. Plus, the added possible interference of any emergency vehicles that are using Tulare or Cedar, and they use them all the time. I can tell you that for a fact. The second, there are 9 gas station convenience stores within a 1 mile radius. From that point, you can look down the street and see one right at Maple and Tulare. Up the street, you can't really see it from that spot because it's tucked back on Tulare, but there is another one within 2,000 feet of this place. There are gas stations all over, AMP and mini markets, small business gas station and convenience stores. There's just too many now. And we just don't need another one in the neighborhood. I mean, I just don't, not just me, but most of the people I've spoken to just do not want this in this neighborhood. And finally, you know, we're asking if you're not going to uphold our appeal, at least have a moratorium on this until the COVID-19 is over and we can get more input from the neighbors and from the Roosevelt neighborhood itself. The students were very active last year in this. They didn't want it. You know, offering the students money, I don't know, and that seems like a little underhanded to me. And especially because the way they did it last year is it came out on the last day during a report by Gene Hagginson on April 29, 2019, 6 p.m. of Action News. After a discussion with Councilman Arias, who spoke of a proposed city ordinance to ban these type of establishments within 1,000 feet of a school. And I never knew what happened with that ordinance. But,
Mr. Cialdelli, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your 3 minutes is up. So if you could conclude, I'd appreciate it.
All right, well, in conclusion, we are against this, and we would like the commission that if they cannot uphold our appeal, to at least put a moratorium for a further time. Thank you. And
Okay, thank you.
Next up, I've got Tony G.
Mr. D, can you state your name and address, please?
Hi, my name is Tony Gutman. My address here is 11445 West Kearney Boulevard, Fresno, California, 93706. I feel for the gentleman that just spoke right now. I was there last year at the meeting. I also want to let you know that I have driven by this place lots of time, and I'm all for the project, because a lot of these neighbors, they're not going to agree with this project because it benefits them for using them as a parking lot. And a lot of them are vendors that are benefiting and selling stuff for the without paying any taxes to the city. And it's not easy on the owner of that vacant lot, if they can't develop it, to deal with all this stuff. I'm not even going to get into what they have to deal with as far as what the city is, code enforcement does, and everything else does. This lot can use an improvement. This is something that, like gentleman said, came up that was willing to invest the money into this neighborhood where nobody else is willing to do it. And it's a beautiful project. I mean, this is a project that this neighbors should be welcome with open arms. I would if I was a neighbor, because it will definitely bring some value to my property. In the future, these homes are built in the 50s and 60s. Maybe they have a chance of rezoning some of that place if it has to. There's commercial across the street. There's commercial down the street. There's commercial everywhere around this thing. We can argue this in a lot of ways, but to benefit this community, they haven't had anything positive there. These neighbors and everybody around it, they are taking benefit of this investor, this landowner that's there. This is not fair to him, what he's willing to do for them and the money he's willing to, millions of dollars he's willing to put in there. City can't do nothing with this project, nothing at all. If they wanted to do it, they would have done it 50 years ago, 60 years ago. Okay. Do you think these neighbors are having flea market there every weekend? Of course they do. Is there a taco truck there every night? Of course there is. Okay. Who cleans up after them? The owner does. Right?
Mr. Guzman, I'm sorry to interrupt. We don't have a timer now, and I've been kind of watching the clock. So I think your 3 minutes are about up, but we appreciate your comments. Can you wind that up, please?
I can wind it up. There will be people that will be against this project for as long as I can remember this. There will be people that will be for this project as well. Okay. But we need to move forward with this project, and we need to be able to build on this thing so we're not facing this over and over again. The neighbors will benefit this in the long run. You should see that alleyway on the back end. That needs to be taken care of. Nobody's taken action to point that out. So I would like to see, along with my other friends, this area itself developed. I would like to see
it. Thank you, Mr. Guzman. Okay, is there anyone else in opposition, or I guess in favor of the project in the public?
I've got Leanne next up, followed by Robert.
Okay, and we kind of got out of order as to who was in favor and who was in opposition. So when you state your name, could you please state whether you're in favor or opposition?
Of course. Good evening, commissioners. This is Leanne Eager, and I'm president and CEO of Fresno County Economic Development Corporation at 906 N Street, and I'm in favor of the project. And just so y'all know, to be clear, this applicant has been working with my office for a few years now in making sure that the project, as they bring it in, is something that would fit in with the community. They had been working with us to talk to the community about what it is that would be appropriate. The fresh fruit, the fresh food was something that was very important. And the look of the neighborhood, making sure that the design was going to enhance the neighborhood and make sure that they were going to bring something of value to that community. And just from a personal note, my father grew up in that neighborhood and graduated from Roosevelt High School. And he told stories about how wonderful that neighborhood was at the time. And certainly we all want to get that neighborhood back to that place. And you saw the pictures, you saw the rendering of what that's going to look like. And I think as Sid said, you know, that, well, he didn't say it like this, but this is not your mama's 7-Eleven. This is the new and improved 7-Elevens that are out there now that make the community a better place. And so I am in favor. They have been very accommodating. They have been very gratuitous. And when they talked about giving back to the students, that was something that they had talked about for years. It didn't come out at the last minute. They did want to do something for the neighborhood. They did want to do something for Fresno. They did want to do something for the community. That was a suggestion to them, and they jumped on it and said, of course, we want to do what's right. And just lastly, as someone who grew up in the 60s, don't badmouth the Slurpees. I'm just saying. Grew up on those, still good.
Thank you, Leanne. We have someone else?
Yeah, next we have Robert.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Robert Allen Vieira. My address is 3515 East Low Avenue. I've been a lifelong resident of Southeast Fresno. I was a student at Roosevelt High School. I also was a football coach there for 5 years. And putting that project in would beautify our area, and it would just help us with our taxes. You know, right now, like Mr. Guman had mentioned earlier, people are using this gentleman's property and they're not paying any taxes, and they leave it a mess. So I'm going to keep it short. I'm in favor. I wish Sid and his group the best of luck on this, and I hope you guys approve this project. Thank you and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Mr. Vieira. Is there anyone else in opposition or in favor of the project?
I don't have any hands up currently.
Okay, so we'll close the hearing. Would any commissioners like to ask questions or comment on this?
Commissioner Bray, you may want to ask the applicant if they would like to provide a rebuttal.
Oh, okay. Would the applicant like to provide a rebuttal to any of the comments that have been made?
The one gentleman that spoke, was he from the neighborhood, the first gentleman?
Yes.
Sorry, I unmuted the wrong person. That wasn't one of the applicants. Sid, you've been asked to unmute.
Here you go. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to rebut a few points that were brought up by the gentleman in opposition. I don't believe there are any gas stations within view of the property. There might be convenience, but again, as we said earlier, a convenience store is zoned as of right there. But the real thing I wanted to rebut was the suggestion that somehow this offer of to help the high school with some of the student programs was a last minute ploy. This is something that has been discussed both with the Department of Economic Development, with the council member, long before we even came to Planning Commission. That's just how I believe in working with the communities that I develop in. I do it everywhere I go. And I understand that when people are in opposition, they say what they need to say. And also the ordinance, well, that's all I need to say. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go back to the commissioners. Does anyone have any comment or questions? I do. I am old enough to remember what was on that corner before it was a vacant lot, because I graduated from Roosevelt High School in 1966. So I appreciate the design that 7-Eleven has done, and I believe it will be a good addition to the community, especially I like the fresh food and the fruit and that sort of thing. So can we have a motion if no one else has a comment?
Well, I just want to make a comment that I believe the developers of this project did their corporate social responsibility by reaching out to the local high school and trying to get their input and trying to develop their area to really mirror Roosevelt's building too. And I just want to praise them for the fact that they're doing some outreach. I know this is a sensitive topic, but I think the biggest thing is having those empty lots. Not only does it become an eyesore, but I believe that it leads to negative activity within the area too. And so, with that being said, I want to make a motion to approve staff recommendations and uphold staff's previous recommendations.
Can we have a second, please?
I'll second the motion.
You have a motion by Commissioner Vang and a second by Commissioner Diaz. Can we have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Hardy is recused. Commissioner Kreiner. Commissioner Sotiline.
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie.
Yes.
Commissioner Vang.
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz.
Yes.
And Chair Bray.
Yes.
Motion.
Go ahead, Kelsey. Motion passes. Okay, so we'll now move on to item B, ID number 20-001169. Consideration of planned amendment application number P200057 for the property located on the southeast corner of East Belmont and North Armstrong. We have the staff presentation, please.
Yes, just 1 second. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Rob with the Planning and Development Department. And staff brings forth tonight a consideration of a plan amendment, rezone, the plan development, and track map. The proposed track map is located at the southeast corner of East Belmont and North Armstrong Avenues, just east of State Route 180, as indicated by the red dashed boundary line.
This is Raj Badeja. Just a point of order. Gavin, has Commissioner Hardy been brought back in?
Commissioner Hardy left, so I can't bring him back in.
Just wanted to clarify. Sorry for the interruption.
Thank you,
That's
Raj.
okay. The subject area is generally surrounded by vacant land and rural residential homes with denser development west of State Route 180. Looking at the existing general plan map shows the surrounding existing land uses of the subject property. The subject property will be changing its planned land use from low density residential to medium density and the rezone of RS3 to RS5. And speaking on that plan amendment, the plan amendment also involves the relocation of a planned trail. And in this image, currently planned trails you can see are indicated as the pinkish purple lines. And I've actually provided dash lines as it relates to this project. The current planned trail runs on the subject property along its western boundary line. So the western boundary line would be the western red line. You can see the dashed purple trail that goes onto the property up to Belmont. And that will connect to it currently connects to the future trail to the south and North Armstrong Avenue to the north. This portion of that trail is proposed to be relocated to where the yellow dash line is indicated, which will eventually run along the east side of Armstrong Avenue between its intersection with Belmont and the future trail just south of East Fantry Creek Drive, which is where that other dash line to the south is. That's the trail that it will connect to. The proposed track map will comprise of 218 single-family residential lots on approximately 22 acres of vacant property. The project proposes a residential density of 9.91 dwelling units per acre, which is consistent with the medium residential density range of between 5 and 12 dwelling units per acre. The average lot size for the development is 3,714 square feet. The applicant is proposing a plan development application, which will allow for the modification of development standards for the RS5 zone district, and that will include a reduction in the front yard setback area, a reduction in the garage to living space setback area, a reduction in required lot area, and a reduction in lot depth for lots along State Route 180. Beyond the plan development application, looking back at the standard development standards of the RS5 zone district, the project complies with all other standards, including open space. And furthermore, on open space, there are 2 pedestrian paseos that will connect to the proposed realigned trail, and that will occur. You can see the small entrance at the northwest end, and there at the very south end, there's actually a paseo that will be developed as consistent with the trail alignment. So that will also connect to the future trail to the south. That's already there, planned to be there. And continuing on, the Council District 5 Project Review Committee ultimately recommended approval of the project 4 votes to 0. And the Airport Land Use Commission also recommended approval 4 votes to 0. There was a neighborhood meeting held back in February, of which the neighborhood discussed concerns of increased traffic and access to East McKenzie Avenue being limited to only emergency vehicle access, and the wall height along the property line closest to State Route 180, provide a wall along that line as high as possible. So in response to addressing those concerns, the applicant has provided that access to East McKenzie be a dead-end street with bollards there, and it's limited to just emergency vehicle access. The wall height along the property line, based on an acoustical analysis study, will be 7 feet along the property line abutting 180. And a traffic impact study was completed by traffic, which did provide mitigation measures, and this will include the installation of a traffic signal with a protected left turn phasing prior to the issuance of the 100th building permit at Belmont and North Temperance. There are other mitigation and traffic impact fees that the applicant will need to pay for as well. So prior to concluding my presentation, I'm just going to leave off, like I usually do in mine, with an aerial of what the project would look like within its existing surroundings. And with that, staff recommends approval of the project, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Rob. Do any commissioners have questions at this time? Okay. Do we have a presentation by the applicant?
I see Precision Civil Engineering has their hand up.
Precision is the applicant, sorry.
Hello. We don't have a presentation. My name is Monique Emerson with Precision Engineering, and we're representing Valley Premier Land Group. And we concur with staff recommendation and want to thank Planning and Public Works for really helping us through the process and getting this project to this point. And that's it. We're here to answer any questions if you have any.
Anyone have questions of the applicant? Okay, so we will go out to the public. Is there anyone in the public in favor of the project?
There are no hands up.
Okay, anyone in opposition?
No hands are up.
Okay, so we will close the hearing and go back to the planning commissioners. Would any of the commissioners like to ask questions or comment on this item?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the project as presented by city staff.
Can we have a second?
I can second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Sodi Lane, seconded by Commissioner Diaz. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hardy?
I think he didn't come back.
Okay. Commissioner Kreiner is still not here. Commissioner Sodi Lane?
Yes.
Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Vang,
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
and Chair Bray.
Yes. Okay, so the motion passes. We'll go on to item C, which is ID 20-001176. Consideration of a rezone application, development permit, environmental assessment for the property at Fresno and Browning Streets. We have the staff presentation, please.
Yes. Okay, good evening, commissioners. Going to bring up my screen. Are you able to see that shared screen? Okay, for some reason it wants to save right now. Sorry about the delay.
That's okay.
All right, commissioners, good evening. Philip Segrist with the Planning and Development Department. This next item before you for your consideration is rezone application number P20-0596, development permit application number P20-00595, and the related environmental finding that's prepared for the project. That's environmental assessment number P20-595 and P20-596. The subject applications were filed by Brett Gianetta Engineering on behalf of Samuel Lucido, and they pertain to approximately 1.7 acres of property, which is located at the northeast corner of North Fresno Street and East Browning Avenue, which is located in Council District 4. The Fresno General Plan land use map and the official zoning map designate that the subject property is planned for office uses. As you can see, the adjacent property immediately to the north is currently planned and zoned for office uses. Properties to the east are planned and zoned for medium density, single family residential uses. And the properties to the south, which is across Browning Avenue, are planned and zoned for both single family residential and park uses. And then properties further to the west, which is across from North Fresno Street, that's planned and zoned for medium high density multifamily, medium high density multifamily residential uses. This next slide is an aerial photograph of the project site and the surrounding properties. The subject property is currently an undeveloped vacant infill site that's surrounded by urban uses. The adjoining properties to the north and east are currently developed with professional office complex and single family residences. The property to the south, which is across Browning Avenue, is currently developed with a church religious facility and a neighborhood park. The property across Fresno Street to the west is currently developed with an existing single family ranchette and an existing apartment complex, which is located behind it. Development permit application number P20-0595 proposes development of a professional office complex consisting of approximately 13,680 square feet of office space. And the related related rezone application P20-0596 requests to rezone the subject property from the OCZ to the O, which is office, in order to remove conditions of zoning that were previously established on the property in 1988. A development proposed under the subject application will facilitate the development of a professional office complex consisting of, again, 13,680 square feet of total office space. And development will comprise of 2 4,800 square foot office buildings, 2 2,040 square foot office buildings. Additional on and off-site improvements will be provided as well. The project will also provide a 15-foot landscape buffer along the eastern property line, and 2 drive approaches are proposed. One will be onto Fresno Street and the other will be onto Browning Avenue. Staff would like to point out that offices are permitted by right in the office zone district, and that given the conditions of approval, which are included in your staff report as Exhibit K, the project will comply with applicable development standards and design guidelines of the office zone district. Next slide is a combination of a site and landscape plan, and that depicts the proposed improvements and the building configuration, as well as the aforementioned parking, drive approaches that exit onto or give access to Fresno Street and Browning Avenue. And you can also see the proposed 15-foot landscape buffer along the eastern property edge. As previously stated, there are existing conditions of zoning that are tied to the subject property. One of those conditions in particular does prohibit access to and from East Browning Avenue. And therefore, rezone application number P20596 requests to rezone the property from the OCZ to the O zone district in order to facilitate development of the site as proposed and thus allow access to Browning Avenue. The conditions that are tied to the property and which are recorded in the statement of covenants affecting land development, which is also included as Exhibit J of your staff report, are a result of rezone application number R8835. And that rezoned the property from the RA, a single family residential agriculture zone district, to the RP residential professional office zone district. And with that approval, it was approved by council in 1988. Conditions of zoning were added to the property, which are outlined in your staff report. And those conditions prohibit access to East Browning Avenue, and require a 10-foot landscape setback required along the east property line, requires dedication of a navigation easement and agreement, and required an acoustical study to be prepared, and as well as incorporate appropriate noise attenuation measures into the design of the structures. As previously mentioned and detailed in the staff report, the primary purpose of the rezone request is predominantly to remove the first condition of zoning in order to grant access to and from Browning Avenue. Staff would also like to point out that there are no provisions in the Fresno Municipal Code or the general plan that would otherwise prohibit the project from being developed as a proposed or restrict access to Browning Avenue. Furthermore, as again detailed in the staff report, the remaining conditions have either already been satisfied, will be satisfied as part of this development, or are otherwise not required by the Fresno Municipal Code general plan or any operative plan. And therefore, all conditions of zoning are requested to be removed as part of this rezone application. And therefore, the aforementioned covenant can then be released by the Planning and Development Department. The subject project was considered by the Fresno County Airport Land Use Commission on June 1st, 2020, and the commission approved a finding of consistency, provided that a Form 7460 be filed with the FAA. That has been completed. And on June 22nd, the Council District 4 Project Review Committee reviewed the project and recommended approval by a vote of three members were present and one was absent. No additional comments or recommendations were provided by the Council District 4 Committee. And on September 4th, 2020, a notice for tonight's public hearing was mailed to property owners within 1,000 feet of the subject site. To date, there have only been 2 inquiries, neither of which expressed support or opposition of the project. It was more just a request for information. The project is consistent with the general plan as it promotes reinvestment in the city by proposing professional office development within the city, and it also preserves and protects resources by developing on infill properties without expanding the current sphere of influence. Therefore, staff recommends to the Planning Commission that they recommend adoption to City Council, adoption of the environmental assessment prepared for the project, which was a Section 15183 statutory exemption. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval to City Council, approval of rezone application number P20-00596. And staff recommends, the Planning Commission recommend approval to the council, approval of development permit application number P20-00595. And that concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Thomas. Does anyone have questions? I'd like to invite the applicant to present.
Good evening, commissioners. This is Brett Gianetta. As Philip stated, there was the conditions of zoning placed in 1988. We don't know why this was done, but this access restriction would make it impossible to develop the site under the current general plan and development code. Right now, there are 2 existing driveways on Browning Avenue, and both of those would be removed and replaced with 1 single driveway approach, and that would provide circulation within the site. Are there any questions?
Okay, so no one has any questions. Do we have anyone in the public who would like to speak in favor of this project?
I have someone listed by a phone number. The last 4 is 1259. Telephones, you need to unmute yourself by pressing *6. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. My name is Sam Lucido, 516 Villa, Clovis, California, and I am the applicant. And I think Brett has covered it well and the staff has covered it well. We are basically trying to improve our traffic circulation on that site. We are an infill development. We have done a number of projects similar to this around the city of Fresno, Clovis, and Sanger. So we have the highest regard for all of the recommendations that have been made, and we'll strive to live up to those recommendations. We appreciate your support and your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Lucido. Is anyone else in favor?
I have one other person, Doritz. You're unmuted. Can you talk? Well, there's no audio coming from them. They have been unmuted.
Okay. Is there anyone else in favor or opposition? Okay. Seeing none, we'll close the hearing and take this back to the commissioners. Does anyone have questions or comments on this item?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to recommend that we approve staff's recommendation as presented tonight.
We have a second, please.
I'll go ahead and second that.
Do we have a motion, Commissioner Sodi Lane, and a second from Commissioner Vang? We have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hardy, Commissioner Kreiner, Commissioner Sodi Lane, Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Vang,
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Chair Bray.
Yes. Okay, the motion passes. We'll move on to item D, ID 20-001177, consideration of a CUP application number P 19-04594. We have the staff presentation, please.
Hello, yes. One moment. Okay. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Jose Valenzuela, and I'm with the Planning and Development Department. Tonight, you will be considering the subject conditional use permit application and the related environmental assessment. The subject property is located within the City of Fresno's general plan boundary and sphere of influence. The subject property is approximately 1.27 acres and is located on the northeast corner of North Grantland and West Barstow Avenues. The project site is surrounded on the east and west by single-family residential development. Currently to the north and south, you have undeveloped land. The planned land use designation and zoning classification for this site is community commercial and CC, respectively. On August 5th, 2020, the Planning and Development Director approved conditional use permit number P19-04593, which allowed the development of a service station with a convenience store and an additional retail building. Additionally, the Director denied the subject alcohol beverage control conditional use permit, which requested to establish a Type 20 off-sale alcohol license for beer and wine. The following day, the applicant submitted an appeal of the denial and is now being brought to you for your consideration. Here you can see what the development will look like. The denial of the alcohol use will not impact the operation or development of the service station with a convenience store and retail building. Staff looked at the location restrictions listed in section 2706E, which states that new alcohol uses shall not be near sensitive uses, near other alcoholic establishments, within high crime areas, and within high concentration areas. The proposed alcohol use did not meet the location restrictions due to its proximity to a newly constructed daycare center located at 5590 North Grantland Avenue, which is approximately 440 feet away. Additionally, staff looked at the number of licenses in Census Tract 42.07, which only allows for 6 off-sale alcohol licenses. Currently, there are 11 active alcohol licenses, which would mean this census tract is overconcentrated. Police did review the proposed alcohol use and determined that the proposed project is not within a high crime area. However, should the application be approved, the applicant will be required to comply with conditions of approval outlined in their memo dated November 15, 2019. For these reasons, staff could not make the required conditional use findings for this alcohol use, and they are further discussed in staff's report. Public outreach was established via a public hearing notice, and as of today, I have not received correspondence opposing the proposed alcohol use. However, staff did receive email correspondence from the applicant that has been provided to you and uploaded to the public record. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission deny the appeal and uphold the director's decision to deny the subject alcohol use application. Additionally, should the Planning Commission grant approval of the ABC license, the following shall be required. 1, make exceptions to location restrictions. 2, amend the CUP findings. 3, adopt the environmental findings. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Do any commissioners have questions for staff at this time?
Hey, Jose, I have a question for you. What are the hours of operation for the proposed site?
Yes. I know it's not a 24-hour. It's from 5 a.m. to 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. 7 days a week.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, we'd like to ask the applicant for a presentation.
I've got no one with their hands up, so I can't identify an applicant. Oh, never mind.
Trying to figure it out here. Thank you for your patience.
You've been unmuted.
If you can hear me, I can go ahead and talk.
We can hear you.
Okay. Good evening. Members of the Planning Commission, I'm George Beal. My address is the 1175 Shaw Avenue, City of Clovis. This property has been zoned commercial for over 15 years. We propose to build a Johnny Quick food store, Chevron gas, with a drive-through Mexican restaurant, coffee bar, with inside and outside seating. This location will also carry larger selection of fresh fruits and pre-made, ready-to-eat dinners. There will be about 2,200 square feet of additional building for small shops, offices from 250 to about 500 square feet. There is designed for insurance agents, nail shops, home offices. We had a neighborhood meeting back on November 7th, 2019. 20 people showed up. The number one concern was getting a traffic signal installed at the intersection. The people that came to the meeting knew the property was zoned commercial and knew that it would be developed with commercial uses. There is a proposed daycare center about 500 feet north of our project. We received a letter in support of the project from the daycare center. The Council District Committee approved our ABC CUP back on March 3rd, 2020. We are installing solar panels on the roof of the gasoline facility and the building to offset about 50 to 60% of our energy use. We also are installing 2 car charging stations. We are installing the traffic signal, street widening for a safer intersection. With these improvements, the city transit system will install a bus stop. People living in this area will save about 500,000 driving miles per year. The closest store to this location, 1 mile north, is 2 miles as a round trip, which comes out to about 500,000 driving miles a year. The ABC census tract 42.07 is an extremely large census tract. Down on the west border by Chateau Fresno, on the north side is the San Joaquin River. On the south side is Gettysburg Avenue all the way to Golden State Boulevard. And on the east side is Golden State Boulevard all the way to Herndon. The census tract, my figures are different from staff. I could be wrong. There's 10 licenses, 3 are surrendered, and those 3 are on the north side of Herndon, east of the Highway 99. There are 7 licenses allowed in the area. Again, this is coming from my information with ABC. One of those licenses is located at Herndon and 99, and the other 6 licenses that are allowed are clustered at the corner of Shaw and Highway 99. One of the 3 surrendered licenses belongs to Navjeet Chahal, and he has signed up to speak later on today, and that's the tenant that we're looking to have him move his license to this particular location. The municipal code section of 15-2606-5E exceptions. The new establishments may be exempted from location restrictions if the review authority determines any of the following items. City of Fresno indicated the project is not within a high crime area. The proposed use is not located within an area which the chief of police determined based on quantitative information is not detrimental to public health, safety, or welfare of persons located within the area, would not increase severity of existing law enforcement or public nuisance problems in the area. The proposed off-premise sale of alcoholic beverages is incidental and provides for a more complete and convenient shopping experience. The proposed outlet for off-sale premises of alcoholic beverages would act as a public convenience or necessity to an underserved portion of the community, or hence the vitality of an existing commercial area without presenting a significant adverse impact on public safety, health and safety. The newest store, or the nearest store, is 1.3 miles to the north. And if you're going to the east, it's 1.5 miles to the east, which is at Shaw and Highway 99. This area is a very fast growing area with 803 new housings approved, increasing the population of the census tract, which I feel when the census comes out this year, you'll see this particular census tract will have picked up a substantial amount of new residents. In closing, we have to remember Navjeet should receive the same courtesy that other people have gotten that sold their business to high-speed rail. They were allowed to relocate to comparable locations. By approving this CUP, the ABC license count does not increase. If I can answer any questions, I would be happy to do so. Hello.
Do any commissioners have questions of Mr. Beal? Okay. We will go out to the public. Is there anyone in the public who is in favor of the project? If so, use the raise hand function on your Zoom or press *9 on your phone.
First up, I have Ken Vang.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairwoman and Commission members. I'm Ken Vang from Vang Corporate Consulting Engineers. Mr. Beal gave a very thorough presentation already, but I always like to add that at the time of the appeal letter, the school, the daycare had not been under construction yet. And so at the time and presently, although they have an approved permit, they're not under construction, they're not open for business yet. Available for any questions.
Thank you. Is anyone else in favor of the project?
I've got one more with the hand up, Navjeet Singh.
Members of the Planning Commission, my name is Randall Mathias. I'm in business in a partnership with Navjeet Chahal, and I'm going to speak on behalf of our business. I reside at 497 West Bedford Avenue, Suite 105 here in Fresno, 93711. So we formerly operated the Johnny Quick Food Store located at 6840 North Golden State Boulevard in Fresno within this census tract 4207. In 2017, with the approval of our state's high-speed railway, we had to sell our equipment and our improvements at the Golden State Boulevard Johnny Quick store. We did not, however, sell our ABC license nor our Johnny Quick food store franchise agreement. We were tenants and a franchisee there for 6 years of our 15-year agreement term at the time that our store was closed. Further, at the time of sale of the property for high-speed rail purposes, the purchasing authorities informed us that we could relocate to another location here in Fresno. Thereafter, we've been able to find a comparable site to the former store, and that site is the Grantland Barstow location, which is the subject of this hearing. So we now have signed a real estate lease at the Grantland Barstow site in an effort to relocate and to reopen our former business at the new site. We're asking that you afford us the same opportunity that's been offered to other displaced businesses due to high-speed rail acquisition and business closure. We do own our ABC license within this tract, and we would like to reactivate it at this location. Now, we do view this as a business reopening within the very same census tract that we formerly operated with this ABC license. We would appreciate your support and approval of the requested entitlement, and we thank you, and we will be available for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in support?
No hands up at this time.
Do we have anyone in the public who's in opposition to the project?
No hands are up.
Okay, we'll close the hearing and go back to the commissioners. Are there any comments or questions by the commissioners?
I do have a question, and so I need some clarification. So was the former store at Shaw 99 or at Golden State?
Can the applicant answer that question?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The former store was at Golden State and Highway 99.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and make some comments about this situation. You know, with this case right here, I'm, usually I'm really, when it comes to liquor licenses, I'm pretty fixed on, I kind of see this black and white when it comes to looking at the staff's report. But in this situation, I feel like Mr. Singh should be afforded the ability to be provided with that CUP because he did have the rights to it previously. I mean, this situation to me is very similar to the situation that occurred with the previous liquor license that was located on Nice and Cedar. And I mean, ultimately, even though we denied that one, it was appealed to the city council. And, city council overruled us just because they received a letter from the daycare. So it seems like they're using the same approach in this situation too. But, I don't want to punish Mr. Singh. I hate to punish local business owners too. So with me, the way I would like to if I was to make a motion, well, I'll go ahead and make a motion, but I want to go ahead and make a motion to overturn staff's recommendation to deny the applicant's appeal.
Commissioner Vang, this is Raj Badeja from the City Attorney's Office. We'd just like to clarify that pursuant to FMC 155306, the commission does need to make findings, which would be required for approval for the action that you've suggested. Without making the required findings, the commission is precluded by that code section from approving. So if you'd like suggestions, you can ask.
Yeah, see, that's a difficult thing right there too, because you know the daycare is located within that 500 feet. And I feel for Mr. Singh. I mean, ultimately I do. I feel like he shouldn't be punished for that. But I mean, if I have to make a motion based off of um, these findings on here, I can't do it. Mr. Singh, Mr. Beal, I mean, unfortunately, I can't do that at all. If I'm just reading this right here, because even though you get that letter of support from the actual facility itself, I can't do that at all. So I would like to make a motion, but unfortunately, I can't make that motion then.
Commissioner Vang, this is Raj Badeja once again. One option that the commission would have is to refer this back to staff to further analyze the facts and see if the findings can be made pursuant to the discussion from today. Since there has been testimony presented on the record, that may be a possibility.
Yeah, well, let me do that then. I'll go ahead and make a motion. We'll send this back to staff, have them take into account the new letter that we received from Brian Daycare to reconsider this situation.
Do we have a second for that motion?
I have a comment first. I think the other thing that I heard was, and the other finding was around there being an over concentration in the area. And if the applicant is saying they think that with the new census that might have an impact on that. I think we're like 6 months out from having 2020 census data. So if staff can also, I guess, look at that in terms of a consideration around the findings.
That's a good point. Okay, so can we have a second to Commissioner Vang's motion?
Chairman.
I'll second.
Chairman, can I make a comment? This is Ralph Cachadorian here at the Planning and Development Department. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
What I wanted to just give you information regarding high-speed rail. And it's just, I think it's good information to consider. However, I wanted to point out that back in August of 2017, this particular issue with high-speed rail had come up with the applicant's request for the gas station and convenience store at West Shaw and Hayes. And at that time, the question was asked about high-speed rail, and the applicant had actually stated that the Shaw and Hayes ABC license that was granted to him by the commission at the time was based on a relocation of the Golden State and Herndon service station, the ABC license that was there. So this would be a new license, but the high-speed rail license was initially granted by the commission as the transfer of the relocation of the Golden State and Herndon site.
So the applicant stated that this was in opposition to what the applicant stated? I'm confused.
The applicant at the time in 2017 had stated for the record that this that the Shaw and Hayes ABC license request at that time was for replacement of the Golden State and Herndon site.
Mm-hmm. And they're saying that this one is the same one?
can ask the applicant.
I would ask the applicant that.
Can I address that?
Yes.
Yes. The application for Shaw and Hayes, which is a CUP C17050, the conditions of the CUP, it specifically indicates here, the applicant shall purchase or transfer an existing type 21 alcohol license from within the city limits of City of Fresno. But to answer Ralph, we did buy an alcoholic beverage license that was impacted by high-speed rail. It was purchased from Jerry Villanova and Joyzette Villanova. It was called Quick Save Market, and it was purchased, it was located at, I can tell you here, it was located at 1545 Tulare Street. And this is the one that I had in escrow. If I misspoke, I misspoke, but that's not what happened. We purchased this Quick Save Market from 1545 Tulare Street, which was purchased by High Speed Rail. And that was located very close to the fish market downtown in Chinatown. It was an area that had a high crime area, but the upside is it was purchased by High Speed Rail. And the application for this purchase was signed on 12/21/16. And I showed Ralph that, and apparently they didn't agree with me, but it's the one that we have for Shaw and Hayes. And that's the one that was approved from Shaw and Hayes. We didn't own the license at Golden State and Highway 99.
Yes, that was quite confusing in the beginning. It seemed like it was characterized that you did. So can we have a motion to?
So there's a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick? Sorry. It's Jose here, and just for your information, the letter from the daycare center was submitted with the appeal request, so we did take that into consideration, and we stuck to the we still couldn't make the findings, the CUP findings.
Okay, so if we do not have a second to Mr. Vang's motion, can I have another motion? Or can Commissioner Vang make another motion?
Am I on mute? No. So I move that we approve staff recommendations as presented.
Thank you. Can we have a second for that, please?
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner McKenzie, seconded by Commissioner Sodi Lane. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Commissioner Hardy, Commissioner Kreiner, Commissioner Sodi Lane, Commissioner McKenzie,
Yes.
Commissioner Vang,
No.
Commissioner Diaz,
No.
Chair Bray.
Yes.
3-2. Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, so that gets us down to the end here. Do we have a report from the secretary?
Staff has nothing to report this evening, Chair Bray.
Okay. And are there any unscheduled oral communications? If you're a member of the public and would like to comment, please use the raise hand function on Zoom, or if you're calling in, dial *9, and you have 3 minutes.
There are no hands up.
Okay, so we'll adjourn the meeting. It is 7:54. Thank you, staff, and thank you, commissioners.
And everybody.
Good night, all.
Good night.